Mm-hmm. Yeah, remember to put it down. Yeah, Bigfoot is there. Well, good night to you. It's so good to be here with you for another episode of Advancing the Cause. Tonight is Wednesday night, so call your friend, call your family, call everybody, call even Jagyu and even Dirty Man. Tell them Advancing the Cause is on. And we're going to be in for a really, really good thrill this evening. On Advancing the Cause this evening, I want to share with you very quickly. As a matter of fact, let me say we're going to send out birthday greetings first to all our lovely, 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 wonderful viewers who have celebrated their birthdays yesterday, today, day before yesterday. Happy, happy birthday to you. And we trust that God is going to continually bless you and to ensure that you have the guidance you need to continue advancing the cause. Yes, times hard, things tight, but with life, we can move forward. And then to those persons who have lost loved ones, we want to extend to you our sincerest condolences. I know our very own vice chairperson here for the PNCR, Miss Elizabeth Williams, she lost her father. Condolences to you, Elizabeth, and the rest of your family members. We know it's not easy, but God will see you through. And to everyone else who would have lost loved ones, especially the mother in Bartica, whose son was killed by a PPP counselor's son. That's so sad. And that young man he's been placed on $1 million bail. It's another story we'll talk about. But you know what? We have some other things to talk about. And so good night to all those of you who are watching us. My friends, we out there in Switzerland, those in Turkey, those in Paris who are watching us, those right around the Caribbean, and everybody who's watching us. Good night to you and encourage your other friends to tune in to Advancing the Cause. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the conference and the VP. Miss Blair, good night to you. Yes, the conference and the VP. So listen out for that. But we're not going to go into too many updates for tonight. We're going to incorporate those in our conversation because we have a very special guest who we want to bring on screen with us. I would want to say at this time, he is the man of the moment. Like when you have weddings and you say the man of the night or the man of the moment, this is the man of the moment. And I know before, yes, he wasn't creating havoc or he wasn't creating storms, but people I don't know, just the sound of his name, or maybe when they see the first letter of his name, it sends shivers down their spines. And so we're going to bring right on Mr. Rickford Burke, a very patriotic guy. And he's Rickford, good night to you. I
Good.
love that smile.
None of the moment. Wow. Good night to you. Thanks for having me. Good night to your listeners.
Rickford, you're no stranger to this program. And
Absolutely not.
I know tonight I've chosen a very, very wild topic for tonight, the conference and the VP, because we recognize that since the ad and the notice of this conference has been publicized, the Vice President of Guyana, Barry Jagdeo, he has gone wild, he has gone mad, and I'm not sure what else is left for him to say about this conference. But before we talk about the conference, I just want us to look at what is happening here in Guyana. I know you folks get some updates from time to time, but look at what is happening here in Guyana. In Guyana, we have operated this Bora thing. Show us this Bora thing. I want Rickford to see, and I want everybody else to see what's happening here. The kind of salaries that citizens here are earning at the end of the month, and look what they have when they go to the market. This is what they're faced with. This is what they're faced with in the market: $1,200, equivalent to $6 US. Now you understand, Rickford. I'm not sure if you would understand, but the people in Guyana would tell you that if you have a family of 5, that there can't be enough for your stew. Huh? If you're gonna do Bora stew, then that's not even good enough for you and your husband or your wife. Much more if you have a husband, a wife, and 2 children, just 2 children. So it's $2,400 alone you're talking about for Bora. You have not yet spoken about the meat, whether it's fish or beef or chicken or even chunks. And you've not yet spoken about the rice and the oil and the seasoning and so on that you got to put there, the shallot and the celery and so on. Right, Rickford, tell us, give us your thoughts on this.
Well, first, the country doesn't have sound economic policy, and what is happening is that inflation. There's inflation taking place all around the world as a consequence of COVID, and then the backed up chain supply of goods to be transported around the world as a result of COVID. And then you have the war in between Ukraine and Russia, creating havoc again in the world economy, and we have inflation. And uh, one of the I think elements that has added to the inflationary impact that we have in Guyana is the fact that the government has been giving out money while. This, excuse me, this is the first government in the world I've seen literally going to the bank, taking out hundreds of millions of dollars, packing it in somebody's car trunk, purportedly sending those monies that they withdrew to be distributed to people without any checks and balances, without anything. You could take half the money in your car trunk and take it home. Nobody knows. And as the Auditor General shows, there's massive corruption in Guyana with some of these projects. And so we have inflation, we have runaway prices, we have your money you have has less value because when you go to the stores, like it doesn't make sense. Look, in order to feed your family with this, if it's a family of 6, you need 1,200 by 6, I guess. And as you said, you have to add the rice, the meat, and the other seasonings and so on. And so by the time you're done, you're spending what, $10,000 on to cook a meal for the family. And then if you're working for $60,000, you have electricity that is about $30,000. You have your rent, which is another $20,000 to probably $40,000, and you see exactly want to know how people live in Guyana. And it is only by the grace of God and help from family abroad that people are living in Guyana. And the government doesn't have sound economic policies to address this. They're just throwing plasters at this, which is throwing money at people and telling people come and get some job to clean a trench or whatever. We're supposed to be an oil producing economy. I guess the fifth largest oil producer in the world. And the only people benefiting from this is Bar Jagdeo and Bar Jagdeo and his cronies and friends of people in the PPP. The ordinary man in the street is not getting any benefit from this $1 billion that they have withdrawn within 3 years. They have withdrawn from the Natural Resource Fund. I don't think the Guyanese people are holding them to account. There's massive corruption, we're told, by the U.S. government officials. Massive corruption, which they're monitoring. I'm not sure when, Guyana is a sovereign county, and I guess what they're monitoring to determine is whether or not American companies and American individuals are involved in that corruption. That's when they could trigger investigations, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. So I guess when somebody triggers that act, there's going to be some investigation and somebody's going to be held accountable. Other than that, who's going to hold this government accountable? The police force is controlled by the government. The audit department is controlled by the government. You had the Auditor General hanging out with Sharon Das and PPP members and Bar Jagdeo and others after the no confidence motion. So he's completely political, completely compromised. And we have a situation where the PPP is like a runaway train in Guyana, running over everybody, attacking anybody who criticizes them. And I think at this point in time, Bar Jagdeo thinks that he's a wannabe Putin and he's a tyrant.
But Rickford, this issue of the Bora, this is what we grow right here in Guyana. We grow in Bora, right in Blackbush, right at Mahika, right somewhere in Region 3, in Blackbush, Pole, and so on. This is what we grow right here, and that's $1,200. So you could imagine how, let's look at the lowest class of work, maybe a sweeper cleaner, who's carrying home $70,000 per month, and let's weigh it down to being a single parent. So you understand the kind of hardship people face in this country. And every time these so-called ministers go out there, they go out with all kinds of flags flying, giving people false hope that things are well in Guyana. The people are happy. The people are happy with the PPP. Well, if the people are happy with the PPP, operator, could you show us the next one? Let's really understand whether people are happy, citizens are happy with the PPP, indeed. This one here, the sugarcane workers. This one here that you're seeing, Rickford and viewers, this one here is water that residents in North Timeri, this is what they're receiving. This is what is coming through their taps. North Timeri. And I want any one of the ministers of housing and water to doubt this. This is what the people are receiving from their taps. Operator, the next one. So if you want to tell me that citizens are happy with this, then I don't want to.
Ashton today, hoping you could see the people that you supposed to be here. Find 5 minutes of your time, Mr. President. Come and see we come for fight. Come and see we. 5 of us are going to come and reach you. And listen to we concerns. You know why? All we asking for is a package for go back to the estate for work permanent with Rosal Estate. Don't get me kicking me like football. Mr. Sipan Narain, straight talk, I'm fine for calling him. Sit down there and accepting all the wrongdoing that the sugar corporation doing to the worker. They say sugarcane got the ignorant, but the ignorant is done. And straight talk, let me clear some of the area, y'all. This has got nothing to do with politics. Because the first time Mr. Sipan and Ryan gonna tell we at the second meeting or the first meeting with Guy Suko, over y'all had a parliamentary member there writing placard. And we jump down his throat and you stop. This is about politics. This is about the man come and show his support. Because the struggle that we, the people of Guyana, going through. And we will do this until you realize your conscience and your sense and you represent the sugar worker and all the category worker that you are betraying and you're collecting the money. Because even if I work tomorrow one day, see around you get $281. Come on, we just 16 years striking a peaceful protest.
So, Rickford, the people in Guyana are happy. And so I don't know if this video is they like to say photoshopped. I don't know if this one was photoshopped, but this is what was happening today. Today, the sugar workers are on protest. Today's their 16th day. They were in front of the office of the president today. As a matter of fact, they went to their union's headquarters, GAU's headquarters, and they said they were locked out, chains were placed on the gate. So if Jagbio want to tell us that the people in Guyana are happy, and Anil Nandalal want to tell us that the people in Guyana are happy, then I figure these persons are lying on them.
Well, the unfortunate truth about this is that those sugarcane workers will be taken care of. I guarantee you, the government is going to give them what they want because they're their political supporters. If they were black people protesting against black opposition supporters or opposition supporters, period, protesting in front of office of the president, the police would have been called in and to remove them. But, you know, we have two standards in Guyana. East Indian supporters of PUP are treated one way, and black people and other opposition supporters are treated the next. There's no justice. They're not entitled to anything. They're second-class citizens, and that's what the PUP is trying to establish in Guyana. I want to come back to the Bora. And one of the things that has dawned on me is that for Bora, which is produced in Guyana, as you said, to be sold at that price, it tells me there's less Bora being sold, and so people are buying it, which brings me to the point of whether or not there's a sustainable supply of food in Guyana. They're talking about food security or food security because it's a trending international tagline. But I don't think they understand the importance of formulating policies to ensure food security for Guyana. They're talking about Barbados and this. They don't even have food for Guyana, and it tells me that they don't they don't have a policy to one, increase investment in agribusiness, and two, boost food production. And I see them talking a lot about agriculture, whatever it is. I don't think they understand the importance of agriculture and boosting food production in the context of climate change. You have hot sun that's going to burn up produce, that's going to stymie produce. How do we deal with that? You have rising sea levels that's going to flood out farms. How do you deal with that? I don't think this government really has a policy on climate change and a policy on really boosting food security. They're talking about, they're building this new city, Silica City or whatever it is. How about a 30-year plan to remove people from the coastline and maybe redistribute the way you give out, redistribute housing. Take people into the further up Linden, into the hinterland, develop communities, develop industries, develop manufacturing plants. We have to have new communities in Guyana. Everybody cannot be settled on the coast. The coast in 10, 15 years, the sea level is going to come in. What is the government's plan for that? Silica City, everybody's going to go to Silica City. And that's the problem we have. This government, there's no planning. There's no public discussion about anything. They just govern like if it's a mom and pop cake shop. They don't tell citizens anything. Nobody knows who owns oil blocks. Nobody knows who's getting some of these contracts. I'm not sure what is happening in Guyana. It's like a runaway train going straight off the deep end, and Barry Jagdeo was driving it.
The madman, right? But before we get into the conference, like I said, we have two other slides that we would want to show. Rickford, I don't know whether people going crazy or people just saying things, or maybe they're caught off guard, they're not prepared. I don't know what is happening, but listen to this one coming from the installed president. I mean, sometimes you wonder. Listen to this one. Viewers, listen to this one.
My work with the opposition is my work with every area conceived or perceived to be an opposition area. That is why I will go to every community and I'll meet the people directly. I'll win from bottom up. I will embrace from bottom up. If the top doesn't want to embrace, the bottom is embracing beautifully. And that is what I want. I want the bottom shift. Any foundation that shifts, the top will have to shift. And the power of the bottom, the power of the people at the grassroots, the power of that foundation is shifting. And that shift would eventually cause those even though don't want to shake hands properly.
But there are your diehards who will not shift unless the leaders decided they should shift.
That is moving rapidly. I can assure you, it is shifting with beauty and grace.
What stops you from reaching out to the opposition leader directly and say, "Sir, let's talk"?
Why
about
is
one
there
thing?"
something stop me? What stopped him from reaching out?
What stops you two?
I reach out. The man refused to shake my hand twice. What do you want me to do? Bow before him? He's God?
That's the only thing you can do in terms
The
of
opposition leader is not God. The first thing you must know, the first thing you must do.
Neither of you is.
No, I'm not. That is why I reached out humbly trying to shake his hands and he refused. I tried humbly, Chabral, to shake his hand and he refused.
But that's the only mechanism.
Oh my God. If you can't shake the hands of a humble man, what else would you do? Furthermore, let me tell you something. Let me give you another example of reaching out and what reaching out constitutes. I consult with you and you go to the court to stop the consultation. I consult with you and you go to the court to stop the consultation. Let me give you a third example. Here's the third example. You're a follower of the Bible?
Yeah.
What's the first thing you have to do? Not confess your sins?
Yes.
All I'm asking him to do is confess his sins and his sins of trying to rig the elections. Oh, is that too difficult? Confess that.
Is that a precedent?
First of all, he's oxymoronic. He just said that Aubrey's not God. Then Chabral reminded him he's not God either. And then he turns around and says, Aubrey must confess the sins to him. Well, we only confess sins to God. He needs to take a seat. He's not God. He's more a fool and a clown than God. That's how he sounds to me. The other thing I want to say is that the opposition leader went to court to stop the so-called consultation because he was acting using the consultation process as a proxy to rig that process. And so what he was doing is abusing his authority. The Constitution requires meaningful consultation, and the Caribbean Court of Justice described what meaningful consultation is in their ruling with regard to the appointment of the Elections Commission. And that's across the chairman of the Elections Commission. And that process applies to everything. That's the standard. Meaningful consultation means meaningful consultation. They're the ones that went to Caribbean Court of Justice. They're the ones that got the judgment. So they have to now abide by the case law established by that ruling. He's not doing that. He's just saying, come talk to me, whether I agree or not, if the opposition leader asks for time, information. He went ahead and made the appointments during the process. So he's being very deceitful, dishonest as usual. You know, PvP is synonymous with dishonesty, so he can't help it. It's name and nature. The other thing he says is that he tried to reach out and the opposition leader refused to shake his hand. Well, first of all, he's very simplistic. He's a simpleton. That's not what consultation is, trying to shake somebody's hand out at some event. I mean, could you believe it? The president of a country is deeming meeting the opposition leader out at an event and trying to shake his hand, reaching out and consulting. The law requires him to do two things. The law requires him to consult with the opposition leader, whether he likes what the opposition leader does in terms of their personal interaction or not. He has to. Secondly, the law requires that he must consult with the leaders elected by the people. He has to consult. He can't choose who he must consult with. And that's the problem. The PvP believe that they're superior. They believe in racial supremacy. It's like the KKK and some of the racist people in this country. So they want to choose who they consult with. They want to choose who the black leaders they consult with. They want to choose who the opposition leaders they recognize. For instance, you have a whole parliament, they're one seat majority. They're one seat majority parliament. They instead of recognizing the authority of the largest block of MPs, 30 or 31, I think, or 30, remind me, they chose a party that has one member in the opposition, one ONE, to make the deputy speaker when the laws require the deputy speaker to come from the opposition. They're disrespectful, they're contemptuous, they're cantankerous. And we have to stop it. Something has to give in Guyana because we're adding pressure. We're adding pressures like a pressure cooker. We're adding stuff, we're adding heat, we're adding stuff, we're adding heat. There's only so much this little pressure cooker could hold. And at some point in time, the whole lid is going to blow off and we'll end up with a failed state and civil conflict. This government is determined to incite civil conflict in Ghana. Don't worry about all the nonsense that Orphanal is talking about. They want to have a confrontation with the black community, so maybe they could wipe us out like Jack Dare's era. Jack Dare's government did, killed out 1,400 black people, no investigation, no justice. They are determined. Maybe they have plans to separate the country. I don't know what it is, but they're not stopping. And something has to stop them. They are indeed disrespectful. They are, let me, I don't even want to say what I want, but it seems to me they want bloodshed in Guyana. They're inciting racial hostilities. Every single thing they do is a confrontation. Have you ever seen Bar Jack there being conciliatory? All of the black organizations are complaining. Have you seen them reach out to talk to the leadership of these black organizations? They're contemptuous of black people. They don't believe that black people are a part of Guyana. They think we're second-class citizens and we don't deserve anything once they're in government. And they're dead wrong, and we have to stop them. If they don't want to stop, something has to stop them. And let me say this. You talk about reaching out to the grassroots. That's not what the Constitution, the Constitution requires. He's the president. He has to fulfill the provisions and the requirements of the Constitution. But in addition to that, if they perceive that an organization or a group is against them, their strategy is to break up the group or go and install their own people as a substitute or alternative for that group and go around the group. That's not governance. That's not governance. That's imposing supremacy and ethnic dominance on the country. We must all reject it. They are the government now, even though they're installed, they have to govern for everybody. They have to deal with the people who the leaders who the people elected to represent them. That is the requirement of the Constitution. He has to consult with the opposition leader. He doesn't have a choice, but he accepted just now that he's violating the Constitution. And so we're building a case. We have researchers gathering up all this kind of evidence, and we will present it to the United States government. We have a right here to petition our government. The Constitution gives us the power to do that. And that power gives us the right, rather, to do that. And that's what we're doing. And we have to have change. Something has to give in Guyana. They're not dictators. They're not tyrants. We're not willing to accept that. We will fight them all the way from the diaspora. At every step, we will fight them. We will block them in international community. We will block their loans. We will block their applications. We will block the United States, and the United States government also has to change their policy. The United States government is too cozy with this dictatorial autocratic ethnocracy, pretending to be a PPP government in Guyana. And so we want to also call for accountability here. The United States government has to tell us why they're so cozy with Jack Dare when he's an international criminal. He's a war criminal. His government has killed people. He admitted it at Roger Lunchan's funeral. Why isn't he being held accountable in the international community? And so that's why we're having this conference. We're going to be very frank, but I don't want to jump the gun. You're the moderator here, so when you ask me the questions, I'll answer. But I just wanted to underscore the fact that Orphan sung as a president, he sounded like a fool more than a president there.
Well, Rickford, while you were speaking there, our viewers here, they are saying he's asking Aubrey to confess his sins, but they're asking why he doesn't confess the 19 fraud charges.
And,
Therefore, go ahead.
and why doesn't he confess to the murder and the murder of 1,400 black people by his government, by his party's government? And why doesn't he confess to the racism and the racial discriminatory policies that they are practicing every day? Let him confess. Let him go before his Lord, whoever that is, and confess that they're racist. Confess that they're killers in the PPP. Confess that they've murdered over 1,400 young black men, and there's not been any justice. Let him atone for those sins and let them pay reparations
Apart from
to the
that,
family.
our viewers are saying that we shouldn't bother with Irfan Ali because remember he came from the University of Iflut, so we shouldn't bother with him. The fact is, and it's so what? They're so worthless and wicked with themselves that everything that they do is all right. When they were in opposition, I remember we had the tape, we played it last week, I think it was, when our friend Ali was in Parliament and he was asking what has happened to collective bargaining. The workers need more money and we are going to support the workers. And here now, the very workers, those that you saw there today, work the sugarcane harvesters. I sat with them there for about 3 or 4 hours today. They came from Berbice. They left home at 5 o'clock this morning. They had nothing to eat. Some of them had some, maybe some roti and some pumpkin, with them. But most of them had nothing to eat. They hadn't water. They hadn't anything. We supplied that for them. And their unions turned their backs on them. And that's okay with Barajagdio. That's okay with Irfan Ali. That's okay with the very man, Mustafa, who stood in Parliament just the other day to say, we will resuscitate the sugar estates and sugar will continue to grow in this country. I mean, those people who sleep at nights, I wonder sometimes whether those people sleep at nights. And here we have the sugarcane harvesters who have been protesting for 16 days and not a word from the government. Today they told them Irfan couldn't speak with them because he's otherwise engaged. They took them to Freedom House sometime last week and they filled them with a whole lot of empty promises. Viewers, I want you to understand that you can get nothing substantial from the PPP. They believe in issuing crumbs to people. They believe in empty promises. They believe in dividing people. They believe in setting up phantom squads and killing people. That's how they operate. And so we shouldn't believe anything that comes from the mouth of Barajagdio or anybody from the PPP. Or Fanali, worse yet, because he's a puppet. He's a clown. And that's what we're going to continue to call him because he doesn't even understand some of the things he says sometimes, And it's amazing that you have a president who went to an international forum on more than one occasions and couldn't pronounce words, simple words he couldn't pronounce. Now tell me. And then, he's advocating that we should have Spanish in schools, that Spanish must be taught in schools. I wonder what he going to be saying. Because if he can't speak English properly, I know how he can venture to speak Spanish.
But Coretta, worse than that, in terms of his international embarrassments, he just went to Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic, and signed an agreement for a refinery with for oil to be refined by the Dominican Republic. And the next day, by Jack, they reversed him. So I don't know. Like I said, that thing he had on his head made him a certified clown. I'm not sure what he thinks about himself. He likes to project this power, talking about he's a humble person. I don't know. I don't know. It's embarrassing for me as a Guyanese. I'm proud to be from my country, but when I see what we have there for government, it makes me embarrassed. Yes, last night I was talking to some members of Congress from the Congressional Black Caucus, and we were interacting about the perilous situation facing the African Guyanese community. One member of Congress was particularly concerned because he was hearing complaints from his constituents about lands being taken away from African Guyanese. And so when I started telling him about Mucka, and I mean, it's embarrassing, the question on two counts. Embarrassing that we have a government in 2023 taking away lands from people, breaking down homes in a country where it's only what, 83,000 square miles, but only 18% of the country is occupied.
Occupied, yes.
80% of the country is occupied. And the government is taking away lands and breaking down homes of black people. And the other thing he's asking, like, what are people doing? That too is embarrassing. What the people are doing? Nothing. The government has so instilled fear in the people that people need a safety net in order to respond and assert their rights as citizens. If not, they'll call Clifton Hicken and shoot them down and get police to shoot them down. So it's embarrassing for me as a Guyanese when I talk to non-Guyanese and explain what is going on, especially my Jamaican friends, and they tell me, well, man, Jamaica been a Jamaica, another place been a mashed up. I mean, Jamaicans are so angry right now about what is happening. Maybe we need to shift some of them to Guyana. We need to shift some Guyanese, some Jamaicans to Guyana so they can teach the people of Guyana about activism.
Well, you know, Rickford, I don't want us to speak too much on that because they might put a ban on Jamaica or they might impose visas on Jamaica like they did with the Haitians.
Probably.
And, you know, Haiti is a part of CARICOM, and the kind of rigorous treatment or the bureaucracy for them to get a visa to come to Guyana, you can't imagine. And even after they would have satisfied all the requirements, they wait for 4 months and then they tell them, sorry, we can't issue you with a visa.
The rest of their black people, the government doesn't want black people to come to Guyana. Do you know there had to be an intervention for Nigerian medical students to come to Guyana? The government was sending them back. This government is contemptuous of black people, whether they're black Americans, whether they're, unless you're supportive of them, unless you can, they find favor with you. They are even stopping students from coming to the medical school. They're black because they're scared that they're coming to assimilate in the Guyanese society with Afro-Guyanese or African Guyanese. This government is racist. Look what happened in St. Kitts. Sorry, with the Vincentians. When they had the volcano, the government refused to take them. Why? Because they're black people. You look, they're checking in the Venezuelans because Venezuelans, some of them look Indian, some of them are Spanish, they're straight here people. They want people from Bangladesh. You have people in the Caribbean where there's an agreement for free movement.
And trade,
but they're going straight to India to ask for workers. You have millions of people in Jamaica. You have hundreds of thousands of young people who are skilled, who are not working around the Caribbean. No, this government don't want those people because they're black. Let's go to Bangladesh and Pakistan and India and bring those brothers and sisters from there to Guyana, assimilate them, give them citizenship secretly, and allow them to vote in elections. Everything they do is calculated towards increasing their votes, because we just saw a report from a certain Western government that says they're losing thousands of supporters every month going abroad, and that it's very likely that they could lose the elections and they will need up to at least 25% of the black vote. This is what a Western government just assessed about the PPP's prospect of winning the next elections. They know that. That's why he's running around bribing people, breaking the law, committing pay to play. In this country, if you bribe people to vote for you, you go to jail for life. It's a crime, and it's a crime in Guyana as well. But who's going to enforce the law? The DPP? She's part of the problem too.
Well, you know, Rickford, while we are saying this, I want us to understand that our viewers out there, they understand what is happening, and they're not stupid. If the PPP government think that our people are stupid, it's just that we don't have the time to play the entire tape from those sugarcane workers, and they will tell you, we ain't stupid. They came to us during elections time. They come into your house And now when we want to talk to them, we can't talk to them. But you know what I find very, very disappointing is the fact that we have a whole lineup. Mark Phillips, well, we had Sam Hines first. We got Mark Phillips now, who's Sam Hines' twin brother. We got Joseph Hamilton. We've got Hugh Todd. We got the Bishop slash Supernatural Powers. We got Kwame. We got
Slash crook.
we got Ben. We got two-time install. What's your name? Own age, sorry. We got all these people
That's
there.
that's supposed to be your best. That's supposed to be your best friend.
And they can't say anything. Absolutely nothing they can't say when Jagdio is making all these statements. Imagine Jagdio used a funeral service and a night of reflection to throw Roger Luncheon under the bus and to put all the blame on him, to say he was responsible. So he got to his grave with all the secrets. I figure he went to his grave too with the secret of who killed Satadio Saw. I guess he gone with that too. But it just shows, like you were saying, the kind of disdain this man, Barra Jagdio, and a whole lot of them in the PPP got for people who, one, don't see eye to eye with them, don't represent their ideologies, and as long as you're Black, they have issues with you. But I just want to show us to look at just another one. The other one, we look at the other one, and we're going to just try to figure out whether this is being simple and humble and loving and caring. Let's just look at this other one before we talk about the conference.
Be a booth designated to that here tonight. So persons who are unemployed and looking to become employed, they can come down here to the Providence National Stadium and they can find out more about how they can improve their skills, how they can become employed.
And let's have a replay of that. I don't know if we'll be able to get it a little slower.
I've seen the tape about 100 times.
Is that a simple, humble president?
Well, a lot of us laughed when we saw it, but it's actually not something to laugh about. That young man works hard, I'm pretty sure, puts his life on the line to protect him. And that was complete abuse. It's battery. Actually, if I were that police officer, I would have filed a report. I mean, a police report. The president cannot be prosecuted, but at least his leadership should have told the president that's abuse, that's battery. It's disgraceful. You will never see anything like that in the international community. Who abuses their security officers? But it's, he was so excited to see the white U.S. ambassador. They worship white people. Like, they put us in government. We love them, So how dare you come between me and the ambassador? So he just tossed the young man once. It's abusive. It's disgraceful what happened there. And civil society, one of the things that upset me is the silence of the society. It's deeply, deeply disturbing. Very worrisome that people in Guyana accept these things, accept wrongdoing. If President Granger had done that, the entire society would have condemned it. But the PPP is such a tyranny that people are scared. Even people who are supposed to be independent thinking and responsible citizens are scared to condemn the most vicious abuse like that. And the police statement the police force has not said anything about it, and the president has not said anything about it. It's completely outrageous. It's abuse. That young man, if I were him, I would resign from the police force. I would have no trust in him. He seemed very volatile. And if that's in public, could you imagine how he abuses those officers in private? So what bothers me is there's no entity in Guyana that holds these people accountable. The press doesn't go after the government because they're scared of being victimized. The government doesn't follow the rules of parliament that allows accountability. from the opposition. And civil society is so compromised politically, or they're so intimidated that they don't say anything. And so we have a government that's running roughshod over the country. A president beating up security in public or abusing security in public. I see it as abuse and battery. And people just laugh it off. The country accepts that. It is disgusting. No politician in the world would do something like that, and it should be squarely condemned. Like I said, if I were that young man, I would have filed a police report. That's abuse. That's battery. He shouldn't put his hand on people. That's a bad example for the country. He's probably uh, an abuser in other aspects of his life. If he can so freely abuse his security in public, a man with a gun
A
who
man.
puts his life on the line to protect him is disgraceful. It tells a lot about his character.
Yes. Well, and so it leaves one to wonder what happens behind closed doors, what these same very officers, his bodyguards, have to go through. But I'm wondering whether the president, the morning after that night, whether he confessed. I am wondering. And if you didn't, Mr. Ali, please do it now. Please watch the tape and go and confess your sin.
He should have offered a public apology to that young man. Not only did he humiliate him, the young man, but he assaulted him. He created a national incident. He publicly, as a leader of a country, assaulted a citizen who was sworn to protect him. Suppose that young man now had to jump in line to protect him that same night. How he would have felt? I would have just walked away and let whatever happened to happen to him.
Well, Rickford, if you notice, the young man was, like people would say, he got basity. He really, like, he was trying to figure out what really happened in here. This happening for real? The young man was stunned. He couldn't respond, and he was as if he was in a daze. And then more, look at Sister Sarah. Sister Sarah couldn't believe her eyes. And you want to ask the question whether the young man was preventing her from coming to him, or the young man was talking to her and he just dragged the young man. I don't know what went wrong, but this here is unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Doesn't matter what went wrong, he was completely out of order.
Out of order.
If he felt the young man violated some standard or some operating procedure, then he should have dealt with not the young man, but his superiors. Or if he wanted to talk to the young man directly, he should have done it after he left there. But to assault a citizen, much less someone who's assigned to protect you, is disgraceful and uncivil.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rickford, I just want us to go into a little bit of what this young man here is saying. And viewers, I want you to listen to what this young man here is saying.
Comment on the incident with the president and his bodyguard. Now, two things were evident during that incident. One is that the bodyguards were not properly trained. If they were, the guard would have turned and meet his aggressor with lethal force. If that was one of Burnham's bodyguard, the president would have been dead, because the last person the bodyguard expect to approach him like that is the president. And in a split second, what would be going through that bodyguard's mind is that if he's attacked from behind, the president and his party is in trouble. Number two, the president has exposed his vulnerability because his guards are not properly trained. I've always known Mr. Ali to be a thug, a gutter rat, and a junkyard dog.
Thanks.
I saw how he handled the lady in Bartica. And I heard him said some things in Dubai that Guyanese are very tolerant. How can you say Guyanese are tolerant when Guyanese have you in court with 12 matters at a time, expressing their discontent with the way you're handling their resources.
Thanks, Philip. Well, Rickford, that's those are the opinions of a viewer. Those are the opinions of a young man who had to sit and analyze this whole situation, and those were his views on that situation. And it is just saying to us that people are seeing exactly what is happening. People understand protocol, they understand what it means to be a leader. And you notice the young man there was making reference to LFS Burnham. And LFS Burnham again, well, Rickford, you close to LFS Burnham now, because as soon as they hear Rickford name, just the same way when they hear Burnham's name, they scatter in. You have to have men who are properly trained. And if they're not properly trained, then how do you expect them to operate? But I leave the rest for our viewers and the rest of the public to see. But I would have thought that a statement would have been issued from the advisor, the National Advisor on Security, Jerry Govaya. I was hoping that he would issue a statement. But these people, when their pockets or their hands in the pockets or the pockets paying them, they can't say when a wrong is committed. They don't say anything. Likewise, the issue with Darren Malal, none of them said anything about it. But we're here to talk about the conference and the
before you go on to the conference, I'm not sure I agree with that gentleman's all of his comments. I think the most important takeaway from the comments is that the guards are probably not well trained, and that's an important criticism. His reference to Burnham and the guards would have shot him. I don't think that's appropriate. Saying that the guy should have shot the president, I don't agree with that. I think that we can all condemn the president's abuse of the young man. I think we can all agree that the guards probably need to be retrained or properly trained. And we can also agree that having committed wrong, the president should have apologized to the country. And he should. I'm calling on him again to apologize to the country. He displayed a streak of violence there in public, and he should be held accountable. You cannot abuse people. You cannot abuse citizens. You cannot hit people. And I'm not sure what happened, what triggered it, but his behavior and his conduct, the president's behavior and conduct, was highly inappropriate and abusive. He violated the law. He assaulted a young man, and he should be held accountable for it.
Yes. So I am happy that you're clearing this up, and like I said just now, those are not our views.
Of course, everybody's entitled to their opinions,
that young man.
Right.
But it's saying to us that the guards are not properly trained, and that's the
Right.
bottom line. Secondly, it's saying to us that regardless of what happened there, the president should not behave like that. And so we're going to join in our call in asking that the president apologize to this nation for bringing into disrepute the office of the president. It's unacceptable, and we cannot.
And for violating the law.
Yes.
He assaulted the young man.
You are not humble, Mr. President, when you can abuse one of your own bodyguards. You're not humble, and we will not accept less than that from you. So please, one, go and apologize. Two, not only to the nation and to the young man, and two, you must confess your sins. Confess and admit that you did wrong. Just the same way you're asking other people to confess, you must confess your sins too. And so we're going to go right into the topic that we want to discuss tonight, the conference and the vice president. Operator, I don't know if you have those pictures that you want to show us. Maybe if you have a picture of the vice president, because I guess lots of persons don't know who the vice president is. So we'll want to show a picture of the vice president, and while Rickford will talk to us about this conference. So Rickford, if you're going to please take the lead with the conference, tell us where this conference is going to be held, the time frame, and who's hosting this conference, and what it's all about.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to answer the question. The conference will be held in Washington. It's called the Washington Conference on Guyana. It will be held in Washington, D.C. from September 27th and 20 to 28th, a two-day conference. The conference will be convened by a group of an umbrella group called the Combined Guyanese Diaspora Organizations of the United States. And this grouping came about after all the organizations started to express concern about what's going on in Guyana. It's the same set of organizations that held the anti-racism rally, same set of organizations that signed, along with persons in Guyana, signed the letter to the vice president outlining the perilous situation facing sections of the Guyanese society. But what motivated this conference is the fact that the situation in Guyana is getting from bad to worse. The PP government is not prepared to pull back from the brink of oppression. Sorry, pull back from the brink of disaster. They want to continue oppressing Black people in Guyana. They want to continue with racism. They want to continue their racist policies and practices. They want to continue racial discrimination. They want to continue taking away Black people's lands. They want to continue with this policy of ensuring that Black people don't benefit. Look at him. He looks like something that came in from a spaceship.
Yes, I was just going to introduce the vice president to our viewers. That's the vice president. That's the vice president there. Just in case you didn't know, that's the vice president.
And in addition to that, we made an assessment in the Guyanese community here that our representations to the Biden administration have not been taken seriously. And at some levels. And let me tell you what angered the Guyanese community in this country. And we have a serious problem. We're trying to calm our people down. When Secretary of State Anthony Blinken went to Guyana, praised the PP government, not once expressed concerns that the vice president of this country expressed. She has twice said, called for inclusive growth, inclusive governance. You've had several other persons in the government called for this government to be inclusive. You've had at least 7 members of Congress express concern about racism in Guyana. We've had 2 of our members of Congress, one from New Jersey, one from Georgia, express concern about equity and equitable distribution of Guyana's wealth. And this government has shown contempt for those concerns. You've had the leader of the Democratic leader in Congress, who has been most vocal because he has thousands of Guyanese in his district in Brooklyn and dozens of Guyanese organizations. And he has spoken out most forcefully himself, the Democratic leader, and Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who's now the first vice president of the Congressional Black Caucus. And because they're Black, the government has demonstrated contempt. The president has even lied to the nation that he had to educate Leader Jeffries in Trinidad at the CARICOM summit when he only met the man and asked the man for a meeting. So they're very contemptuous of Black people, and members of Congress have seen it. They're seeing that. They're seeing one of the things that have moved several members of Congress is the Stabroek News editorial of August 2nd.
Okay.
The Stabroek News editorial of August 2nd says exactly what we have been saying to our members of Congress. And so you have a major newspaper of the country, which I would argue is supportive of the government, condemning their partisanship, condemning their policy of marginalizing opposition supporters, marginalizing opposition members of parliament, and even abusing their office, even discrimination. And Stabroek News confirmed that only government supporters are getting contracts. So we decided that After Secretary Blinken did not address concerns, which we know he has heard, because we have been writing to him, we've been writing to the State Department, they know we have these concerns. And I think it's a continuation of the same biased Trump foreign policy in Guyana. I'm not even convinced that the US Embassy in Guyana is factually and accurately communicating to the leadership at the State Department the situation on the ground in Guyana. And so we decided to have this conference to sit with our elected officials and government officials to discuss how do we promote through US policy inclusive governance, inclusive growth, equity, social equity, equal rights and justice, the ability for everybody to benefit from the oil and gas proceeds, revenues from in the country, and for policies that the U.S. have to promote sustainable development for all Guyanese, which means ensure that all Guyanese benefit from the resources of the country and the economic prosperity of the country. Right now, that's not happening. And the Barjada exploded. We've been planning this conference with our elected officials all the time. And 1 month before, we decided to announce it because we wanted to be confidential about what we were, about the plans we were making, so that we would have saboteurs. So now that we've announced the conference, Jagdeo is going crazy. He has a right to go crazy, right? He's a megalomaniac. He thinks he must control everything. This is out of his control. So he's been attacking me. He said I'm a criminal. Never been arrested in my life. Jagdeo was actually arrested by Suku. He said that CGID is a criminal network. Well, the PPP is a criminal enterprise. Half of the cabinet of the last PPP government was charged with crimes, fraud. They're involved in all sorts of underworld activities. They're like a mafia organization. They're involved in extrajudicial killings. So I think he is projecting, but we're undaunted by his attacks. He's threatened the conference. He's threatened elected officials. We've passed that information on to the FBI and Washington police. We've met with both entities since. And the conference will go on. The conference is not necessarily to discuss this situation in Guyana. That's not what the conference is for. The conference is being held with the situation in Guyana in background, but for us to discuss how do we together, how do we, diaspora, US government, maybe private sector, work together to foster the objectives of the conference, which is equal rights and justice, inclusive governance, inclusive growth, ensure everybody benefits from the resources of the oil and gas sector, and promote sustainable development in Guyana for everybody. One of the things that we will concentrate on is equal rights and justice. The United States government has to take a look at the death squad killings. We're not going to let it go. You don't get to just kill Black people, label them criminals, and say that the world must dismiss those murders. No. One of the things that we will insist on at this conference is accountability for those extrajudicial killings. And Barjada keeps confirming the crime, because he apparently is arguing, not apparently, he's arguing that these people who were killed were criminals. Well, if they were criminals, the Constitution outlines a process for them to meet justice, which is they should be charged. The government should present evidence to support those charges, all elements of those charges in a court of law. Then they should be judged by a jury of their peers. And then the court, if they're convicted, will impose a punishment. That's the process. So Jagdeo and his cronies in the PPP don't get to just classify somebody as a criminal and kill them. And that's what happened. And I want to ask PP supporters who like to jump on social media and say these people are criminals. How about if somebody decides to designate you a criminal and kill you? How would you feel? How about if somebody just say one of those government ministers is a criminal and get somebody to execute them. Would that be justice? No. Would I be jumping up and down fighting for justice for that? Yes. And so we want justice for these people who were murdered. I want to tell Bar Jagdeo, he has sleepless nights coming. Until the day he dies, he will be haunted by these deaths, and we will pursue justice. And I'm convinced that someday we'll get justice. I want to assure all those families in Guyana whose family members were murdered by the death squad. We will keep fighting for justice for you. I want to assure the family of Ronald Waddle, whose son is my brother, my friend. We will keep fighting for justice for Ronald Waddle. I want to assure the family of Courtney Comewing, who this PPP government officials from this government were investigated for Courtney Comewing's murder. Never any justice. I want to assure the mother and other relatives of Courtney Comewing, we will fight for justice for Courtney. It cannot be that over 1,400 young black men were murdered by a death squad, and this country's populace is just satisfied that, yeah, Bar Jagdeo said they're criminals and so they must be killed. It's going to happen again. It's unacceptable. Bar Jagdeo was responsible for the government that formed those death squads. The United States government believes that he was actually involved in the operation, had knowledge of the operational details of the death squad. The United States Justice Department presented evidence about the death squad in court, showed government involvement. I sat in court and heard the testimony presented by the United States government, demonstrating and establishing that the PPP government was involved in the formation and operation of the death squads. And also, the United States government under President Bush condemned Bar Jagdeo and Ronald Godraj for involvement in the death squad operations. As a matter of fact, the United States government forced Bar Jagdeo to remove Ronald Godraj from the government, from the cabinet, because of his involvement in serious criminal activity. Bar Jagdeo had a bona fide criminal, himself being one as well, in the cabinet, who, when he leaves cabinet meeting, was functioning as a criminal. And the United States government condemned and demanded that he be removed from the government. And you know what they did? They gave him diplomatic immunity and they whisked him off to India as the ambassador. So all of these things would be agenda items on the conference, not pertaining to what the government of Guyana is doing, but what the United States government is doing, because the United States government is all over the world talking about justice, all of the world condemning racism, all of the world, including in America, fighting against racial discrimination, and they're giving Bar Jagdeo and Orfinelli and the PPP a pass. It's unacceptable. It has to stop. Our position as Guyanese organizations is that the United States has to do an introspection with regard to its foreign policy in Guyana, and there must be changes. This government cannot be cozy with the United States government, with the Guyana government, when there are killers in the government. This government also has to re-examine its geopolitical strategy with regard to Guyana. Guyana is cozying up to Russia and China, and the United States foreign policy, one of the United States foreign policy objectives is to limit the influence of China around the world. And Guyana is facilitating Chinese attempts to rise to prominence around the world. And it is unacceptable. It's inconsistent with US foreign policy. And we believe that the genuine partnership that the United States is seeking with the government of Guyana is not going to materialize, not going to be realized, because this government is secretly aligned with China. And when you check Chinese conduct around the world, you find that China, in order to get business done around the world, the Chinese give out a lot of money. And that's why Bar Jagdeo apparently loved China. He loved him some China a long time. That's why we have Sue as the middleman. And according to Vice News, collecting his bribes, right? So all of that will be discussed at the conference. But most important, this conference is not about Guyana. This conference is about U.S. foreign policy in Guyana. This conference is American organizations petitioning their government, which is a constitutional right, to re-examine the policy in Guyana and come up with a pragmatic one that acknowledges the realities in Guyana. It's a country that has a government that is probably the most racist government in the Western Hemisphere. It's a country that has a government that is extremely corrupt, one of the most corrupt governments in the world. The government of Guyana is an ethnocracy. It uses the resources of the country mostly for the benefit of its ethnic collective. This government is dispossessing Black people of lands. This government is disrespectful to U.S. African-American politicians. All of these things must be addressed. It cannot be ignored anymore. The State Department, we believe, has been contemptuous of Guyanese in this country that voted for the Biden administration. And we have a groundswell of anger throughout Guyanese community, particularly in Georgia, particularly in Florida, particularly in New York, particularly in New Jersey, with the Biden administration. And people are mobilizing to not vote. We cannot allow that to happen. We've been discussing this with our elected officials. President Biden only won by 12,000 votes in Georgia. We're over 55,000 Guyanese in Georgia. I'm pretty sure out of that 55,000, about 30,000 or more vote. And they have to vote. And we cannot vote for anybody else but the Democrats. And therefore means that the Democrats who are in government must address our concerns. And it is within that context that this conference is being held.
Well, Ricky, if you're watching my background now, it has changed. And that is because Guyana, the fastest growing economy, GPL just gave us power outage because they feel they don't want our viewers to listen to Rickford Burke. They don't want Rickford Burke to speak, and they don't want Advance the Cause to advance the conference that is coming. But I want Barra Jagdeo and his cohorts to know that whether you give us power outage in this part of where I am, the folks will continue to watch and we will continue to improvise so that our message can get out there. No Barra Jagdeo, who likes to call people criminals, will not stop us from advancing the cause. We will continue to do what we have to do.
Exactly.
But I find Rickford, it is easy for Jagdeo to call Rickford Burke is a criminal. He lives in a basement. Well, I didn't want to say anything before, but I must say it now. I've had the opportunity to visit Rickford Burke and to visit his home. And I can tell you for sure, for starters, he doesn't live in a basement. Viewers, he doesn't live in a basement. And if you had the opportunity to go to Rickford Burke's home, you wouldn't want, from the time you step in front there, you wouldn't want to leave. And if you were to go inside, then man, you would ask Rickford for you to stay there. So let me set the record straight one time. Rickford live in a basement. He drives one of the best vehicles they got in America, and his home is a home. His home, or the house that he lives in, it's a home, and it has a whole lot of love inside. Not like
it has 3 levels. But Coretta, it is not the fact that Jagdeo says that we live in basements. I think what Barra Jagdeo wants to do is follow the playbook of the KKK, which is to stereotype and profile Black people. He doesn't understand the serious nature of his hate speech, and he doesn't understand how repugnant it is to us here in America. He's following the footsteps of the KKK that murdered hundreds of thousands of African Americans. He's using their jargons, he's using their language. And now his entire conduct is consistent with the KKK. The KKK raped people. They burned people alive. They murdered people. They had death squads that roamed the country killing black people. And Bar Jagdale's party has done all of that, right?
Yes.
So he is happy to talk about black people living in basements. As a matter of fact, when I showed the clip, and we'll show it to the conference, of him calling leader Jeffries a racist, one of the members of Congress pounded the table, right? In anger that you have this little, I don't want to say we're on public access viewership here, but this person down in Guyana who has committed war crimes, who has been caught by an international news agency negotiating a bribe in his home, attacking a leader of this country, the second most powerful black man in America. It is because he is inherently contemptuous and racist towards black people. He's a congenital racist. He despises people in authority who are black, that he can't control, that he can't buy out, and hates the fact that we here have access to powerful people. It's a part of his whole concept of ethnic supremacy. Like, how dare Rick Burke and these black people in Brooklyn talk to Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, and talk to the Attorney General? How dare we're the only ones that's supposed to do that? We're superior. You know, he feels that he could go and hire a lobbyist who can lie for them in Washington. We don't have to hire anybody. We just gotta make a phone call, ask for a meeting, because we interact with our elected officials. They think that's contemptuous. How dare these black people have access to that kind of power? Us in the PvP alone is supposed to have that power. And the fact that he's so obsessed with this conference tells me he's guilty. Maybe he needs to confess his sins before the conference, because which government in the world would be opposed to a conference to promote inclusive governance,
We're wondering.
inclusive growth, equality, equal rights and justice, social equity, and the promotion of sustainable development for all citizens? If I were the government, I would embrace that. But everything for Bar Jagdale has to be confrontational if you don't agree with him. It has to be a confrontation. You are not, as a PvP supporter, you can't benefit nothing from this country. You're not a PvP supporter, you can't talk. And every Guyanese who talking around the world, we must control them. Right? Everything. This guy eats, sleep, wakes, anger, confrontation, violence. That's Bar Jagdale. That's Bar Jagdale. He's not programmed to say, okay, these diaspora organizations are complaining since we came to power. Let's meet with them. Let's hear their concerns. Oh no, we don't have to meet with black people. We don't have to meet with those black people that live in basements in New York. How dare they talk about what's going on in Guyana? We in Guyana must talk for ourselves. Did you hear him? Completely disrespectful to the diaspora, saying, oh, we don't care about them, we care about the people home. And the other thing he's cursing us out for, he's suddenly an American constitutional law expert. He's saying we're breaking US law by having a conference. Again, you remember the government's position when the Coffee 250 was having the conference on the merging apartheid state? How dare you black people get together to have a conference on us? It is illegal. He that tilled in Guyana. And he's so presumptuous that he can tell us that our conference is illegal. Well, I want to tell you, come and do something about the illegal conference. He also threatened that he will engage us robustly. We also want to promise him. We're threatening, we're promising him. We will engage him robustly back. And I want him to know that anything he can do, we can do it better in the diaspora. We're not those people in Guyana that you guys intimidate. You try to intimidate us, we come back, we come stronger at you. We're undeterred. We will have this conference. We will talk with our U.S. government officials, and we will make sure that there's a shift in U.S. policy. It must be more pragmatic, it must be more realistic, and it must promote fairness, equality, and equity. And over the last 3 years, U.S. foreign policy in Guyana has not promoted that. They have built on the same bias, some people might call it a different word, Trump foreign policy. And it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And our elected officials have to listen to us. That's the requirement of the Constitution. Well, they don't have to listen to us, but they have to provide an opportunity for us to express our views. And it is through conferences and meetings and such engagements that you communicate your views to your elected representatives. It is a requirement of the United States Constitution. We have a right to petition our government, and we don't have any foreign principles. We're not representing anybody in Guyana, government or opposition. We are representing ourselves. We have a view, and we will express it fearlessly to our elected officials and our government officials. And we will demand results. We have very tangible outcomes that we're looking for, and we will ask the United States government for. Barry Jagdeo apparently is very much aware of it, because we had a draft document which is not necessarily accurate, but we deliberately circulated it, and that's what he's running on. And it's good that he's running on it. But I want to tell them, if they're concerned about the conference, address the issues the conference will deal with. They're right now, Coretta, are systematically taking away people's lands. They're going through the land registry and looking at black cooperatives that have land, and take the lands away. They're looking at individuals, black citizens, and take away their lands. Soon as they came into power, they attempted to take away the land of Cartier. They attempted to take away the land of Sivons. They attempted to take away the land belonging to Kojo McPherson's descendants in West Coast Bolivia. Who the hell do these people think they are? They're greedy, they're covetous, they're cantankerous. Ghana has so much land. Why the hell? You gotta come after black people for their land. What, you want to dispossess us? You want to make us Palestinians in our own land? And when you talk about these things, he wants to attack you. Barry Jagdeo comes out attacking. Fix the problem that we're talking about. You don't own Guyana. You don't own the country. All of us own the country. Black people own Guyana. East Indian own Guyana. Amerindians own Guyana. Mixed race own Guyana. Chinese, Europeans, all of us own Guyana. There's enough land for 1 million people. Why they have to come after black lands? They're greedy, they're covetous, they're disrespectful, they're cantankerous, and they're contemptuous of black people. And we have to put a stop to it. And we will mount an international campaign. We are finished. We're going to have a conference in Canada. We're going to have a conference in London. And we're going to have a conference with CARICOM. We will stop PPP racism dead in its tracks. I promise you.
Well, Rickford, I want to thank you for being here and for sharing with us what this conference is all about. The fact that this conference is highlighting a whole lot of the injustices that has been meted out to not only Afro-Guyanese, but Guyanese who don't support the PPP with their foolishness. They're afraid that you're going to have not only persons within the US, but that you're going to have Guyanese, bona fide Guyanese citizens who live here in Guyana and who are experiencing these injustices, they're going to do presentations there. So they're afraid of all of that. And that is why they're putting a damper on it. I mean, the PPP would have all kinds of things planned. They would have the president going to Canada. They're going here, they're going there, they're talking all kinds of things. And we don't try to put any damper on their programs. So why is it that they're afraid of this conference? It is because it will expose them even more to the wider world, so that persons would understand and persons would get a clearer understanding and know-how of how the PPP operates. I can say to you and to our viewers, schools are going to be reopened come Monday, the 4th of September. Teachers had to distribute the cash grants that they distributed the same Monday, I think it was, when the 1 week before, as a matter of fact, 1 week before the local government elections, teachers had to distribute $40,000 in cash grant to each child. But lo and behold, teachers are receiving $8,000 as their clothing allowance for the entire year. What a shame! What a shame! Priya Manik-Chan sits there in Parliament, or she stands in Parliament, and she would talk about the all the
Like you got back power.
yes, I get back a little powder, realize it's almost the end of the show. But they didn't realize that we're going through, they know that it's almost the end of the show. But she stands there and she boasts about textbooks and exercise books. So I had to remind, and I have to keep reminding them, check again, you're going to see those exercise book with LFS Burnham's face on it. So exercise book distribution was there a long, long time ago. These people always come up like Christopher Columbus, little brother and little sister. But I'm happy that we are having this conference, which will highlight the beast, the PPP, the demons who are masquerading around. This conference will bring to the shore, so that all and sundry will understand that Guyanese people are under threat under the leadership of the PPP.
And also, Coretta, before you go, because of the threat from Barry Jagdeo, we've been meeting with all sorts of law enforcement officers and intelligence personnel in this country. In addition to that, we've been advised that the United States law enforcement community has picked up intelligence that they're planning some protests or whatever. That's fine. That's their constitutional right. They can do whatever they want. We know exactly what is happening. We know what they're planning. They should realize that once you threaten members of Congress, then it kicks all sorts of intelligence mechanism into gear, and they're being watched. I'm not going to be surprised if there are prosecutions from this. Barry Jagdeo, as far as I'm concerned, breached several statutes in this country when it comes to intimidation and blackmail. But I'm not going to say anything further than that. I am wondering why they believe that they have to threaten people from attending the conference. I mean, what is he afraid of? He's trying to intimidate people. Oh, we're going to go after the people. We're going to target the people who go to the conference. We're going to embarrass them. I dare him. And you know what? He believed that this conference is some kind of meeting, regular meeting where, you just sit down and talk. It's not. It's a serious event. And I can tell you, based on my reports that I received today, they're trying to get into the conference. I heard that the Guyana embassy called. Oh, we would like to bring 10 people to the conference. The conference is not for you. You're not going to be able to attend, Guyana government. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. This is a private event by invitation only. You're not going to be able to come to the conference. So I don't care whatever strategies you do. Barrett Jagdeo, Sam Hines, you're not coming to the conference.
Full stop. And so, Rickford, we want to thank you for being with us here this evening, because I heard Jagdeo rambling that he was not planning to attend the conference, but he will attend the conference. I don't know if he's coming to just sit there as a participant, because I know that he will not be allowed, even if he were allowed to come to the conference, he would not be allowed to speak at that conference. But this is his way of doing things all the time, where they feel that they can intimidate people and they can say this and they can say that and drive fear into people. But we will stand the cause. We will stand up for our people. We are inclusive, and whether you're Indo or Afro, or you're Amerindian or Chinese or whichever descendant you came from, we are going to look out for you, because Guyana's motto says one people, one nation, one destiny, not one Guyana.
Which is our organization. We're actually consulting, getting legal advice on that, because we have an organization that we created 5 years ago called One Guyana. But This conference is a private conference. It's an organization, the combined organization of combined Guyanese diaspora organizations of the United States. It's our conference. We have a right to to choose who we want to come to the conference. It's our membership conference, and so we will discuss the situation in Guyana. Barjack, they should understand that I will match him toe to toe. I'm not afraid of Barjack Dale. I've been going up against him since a student. He taught me in school, and I know him since then. And he can't bully me. He can be a tyrant for others. He can't be a tyrant for me. And everything he does, we will match him toe to toe. We will go with him toe to toe, even if it's to the end of the world. I want to promise him that. We're not afraid of Barjack Dale. As a matter of fact, we're contemptuous of him. Just as he's contemptuous of Black people, we're contemptuous of him. And until he changes and repents from his sin, we will be contemptuous of him. We have no regard for him. I have no respect for him, just like he has no respect for us. And he can go to hell. I don't care what he says. He can talk from now till tomorrow. And like I said, when he comes after us, we will go after him back. We will match him toe to toe, and we will go to the end of the world fighting his racism.
Well, Rickford, again, let me thank you for being here with us and advancing the cause. I know that our viewers, they were quite all excited and enthused, and they have been educated with what this entire conference is going to be all about, and more so some of what is happening in Guyana for those who are overseas, because I've seen quite a lot of our overseas viewers on tonight, and they've been following us last week and the weeks before. They've been following us, and they're keeping abreast with what's happening. As a matter of fact, some of them are alarmed that what is happening is like the Bora issue that I showed not too long. Quite a lot of persons are messaging to ask if this is for real. Yes, it is for real. And you know, Rickford, outside of the conference and the Bora issue, we have a dengue outbreak in Guyana, and you don't see these people. You know, long ago you used to have the tractor with the fogging machine and so on, fogging out the areas. Well, I guess because local government elections, they would have come and gone, and they didn't get the results that they want. So they mean that they're going to do anything to suffer the people of Guyana, to suffer the people of Georgetown, to bring suffering to the people in Linden, in New Amsterdam, in Bartica, in Madia, and every area that the people did not vote for them. But let me tell you, you're up for a fight. And the people of Guyana will not forget you. The sugar workers will not forget what you're doing to them. The teachers will not forget. The mother in Bartica whose son was murdered will not forget you, and his siblings, they will not forget you. And so are the thousands, the hundreds of Guyanese young men who were killed. Their families will not forget you and their children. So you're in for a rollicking time, PPP.
Also, let me mention this, which is important, and the world should know this. So because I've been so outspoken and criticizing the PP government, they have been using the Guyana police force to try to get me, right? So they've issued all these wanted bulletins and all that. They probably will continue to do that. That will now be an agenda item at the conference, and later on we're scheduled to discuss this at the White House. It's transactional repression, and we are calling for the police officers involved in this conspiracy to attack people in this country, attack Americans, attack Guyanese, attack even Guyanese visiting, should be held accountable. They think that we don't know. We've been very much engaged with the FBI on this issue. You know, the FBI has been very cooperative, alerting us, meeting with us, giving us advice. They'll be at the conference as well. And I want Guyanese people to know this, that they should not be intimidated by the Guyana police force, corrupt officers of the Guyana police force. This issue is going to become front and center, and it's going to become an international issue. We are aware that they are in Guyana trying to get people to make allegations against me and others in the diaspora who have been outspoken. This is what the government does. They think that they can't engage us intellectually, they can't get us, they can't kill us. So what they're trying to do is now frame us with crimes, and it's so impossible to frame. We live in America, you can frame us here. But that's what they're trying to do. We have affidavits. We have built a very substantial case of them trying to frame people who are on talk shows here. We have a Guyana police force officer, senior officer on tape, trying to induce someone to frame people in America. We have affidavits from people who they have approached. And I'm not going to say much, but we have evidence. I'm not just talking. U.S. law enforcement has evidence. They have tape recordings. They have, and that's a matter that's going to. And in America, they take a long time to build a case. But we're observing what's happening. We know what is happening. And at some point in time, those police officers and the government people who are involved in this conspiracy will be held account by U.S. law enforcement. Everybody heard the Attorney General of New York warn them about this. And the next step we'll take is that we will meet with the U.S. Attorney General. We'll meet with all the attorneys general to talk about this. The other thing that we are looking at is intelligence people who are coming to this country, potentially to spy on Guyanese. That's a crime in the United States. And all of this is being discussed in the run-up to this conference. And that's all I'll say about that. But we know what they're doing. They're trying to use the Guyana police force to get to me. That's why Barry Jagdeo is building this narrative that I'm a criminal. We understand that what they did is after we started being in 2020, when we got U.S. government officials to condemn what was happening in Guyana, they got together with some people in the police force, government official, and decided that they will put out these wanted bulletins and say that I'm a criminal so that my credibility could be destroyed. It's only boosted it. It has backfired. And they keep putting out these wanted bulletins, which is fine. They can do that. But they will be held accountable as well. And we know what they're doing. They're telling people they're bribing people in Guyana to make statements against me. It is so stupid because I don't live in Guyana. If I commit a crime, the crime would be prosecuted in the jurisdiction where I live. So if I commit a crime, the US NYPD will be knocking at my door. FBI will be knocking at my door. As a matter of fact, they wrote the Department of Homeland Security asking them to arrest me. And the people threw the letter in the garbage. So, like I said, we're ready for them. Everything they do, we have a response for it. I want to tell Barry Jagdeo, everything you do, we have a response for it. You want to use law enforcement to come after us? In the process, if you break the law, we will report that to U.S. law enforcement as well.
Well, again, viewers at me, thank you for being here with us. We have to do another episode of this coming closer to the conference because I know lots of beans are going to be spilt right here. I noticed, Rickford, beans are being spilt on you. And we have a man who's been breaking, and now we're breaking his silence all over again. And so he's trying to throw up all kind of thing. The same dirty man, Nigel. So he was telling people the other day on his Facebook page, Coretta McDonald waved some dildo at him and told him that was for his sister. That's for his sister. I don't know. I hope that he wouldn't take a long time to break his silence on the allegation that the indigenous young woman made against him, and that he will not take even longer to break his silence on the issue of the repainting of the house, the bedroom, and the rearranging of the furniture. Nigel, don't take too long to break his silence on that because you seem to like breaks. So everything he's breaking his silence. He's breaking his silence. I don't know what he's breaking, but he's breaking his silence. Don't take too long to break your silence on these issues here. And you sound very, very childish, Nigel. That the issue of dildo and so on, that passed a long time. If Coretta tell you something about your sister, then you have a right to respond to Coretta, not to respond to somebody else. So you don't make sense, Nigel. You don't make sense. And all the nonsense that y'all feel you could throw, we've already seen past. We've seen past those. Priya, everybody, we see past all of those because all of them got heaps and heaps and heaps on them and they still want to throw their dirty linens around. But viewers, thank you for being here. I know we went 20 minutes past our time, but it was good gaff. Rickford, we'll talk to you again. And viewers, stay.
Thank you for having me. And Nigel is a little man, so he should stay in his category as a little man. Have a good night.
So viewers, be good. My folks in Timeri North, be mindful of that water. Don't use that water to drink. The folks in Georgetown, I recognize that we're having water monitoring of water. It cut off at this time, come on at that time, and sometimes you get the brown water. So be mindful of how you use that water. Be mindful on the roadways. Within 6 hours, we lost 8 teenagers. So let's be mindful. Do take care. I love you, Guyana, and we'll see you again next Wednesday for more on advancing the cause. The conference and the VP. Good night to you.